Welcome back. It's the Watching Network Africa on Channels Television. It's close to impossible to talk about the humanitarian crisis which the world is experiencing without mentioning Kenya. Kenya, which runs the largest refugee camp in the world, has confirmed there is no going back on its decision to close the Dadaab camp, which houses Somalis displaced by decades of war. Kenya's Vice President William Ruto explains that the camp poses an existential security threat after a series of attacks. It's very important to note that on the sidelines of the summit, Mr. Ruto explained that it is the international community that has failed Somalia and not Kenya, which has spent $7 billion on Dadaab for over 25 years.
There is a lot of radicalization by extremist elements in the refugee camps, especially on the young people, idle young people in these refugee camps. So when we say the refugee camps pose an existential security threat to Kenya, we have facts, we have figures, and we can demonstrate that that indeed is the case. And that is why we expect the international community to work with Kenya in the framework of the tripartite agreement to expedite the repatriation of these refugees back home, because we believe that they can make huge positive contribution in their country in Somalia.
Kenya's Vice President William Ruto. Back in Nigeria, the central bank has decided to introduce a flexible exchange rate policy as it continues to monitor developments in the country. This announcement was made today by the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, at the end of the two-day rate-setting meeting by the Monetary Policy Committee in Abuja, the nation's capital, which has been described as the most anticipated meeting. Now, according to Mr. Emefiele, the monetary policy rate will remain status quo at 12%, cash reserve requirements at 22.5%, liquidity ratio at 30%, and maintain asymmetric corridor of plus 200 over negative 500 basis points around the midpoint of the MPR. Let's get more of the story now. Joining me is Channel's business correspondent, Harriet Agbeyi. Harriet, great to have you on Network Africa.
Thank you, Marty.
Well, so this meeting has been highly anticipated, but at the end of the day, what does this decision mean?
Well, for starters, it means that there's a lot coming. You know, right now, a lot of speculation had been on with regards where the Central Bank Monetary Policy Committee would go. They had, felt that there should be a kind of increase in the monetary policy rate so that they could ease the tension that we have in the economy right now. Don't forget, in the first quarter, the country recorded a negative growth of minus 0.36%. And so it was expected that this particular meeting would introduce a kind of flexibility and allow the market to breathe, because we have a lot of investors who are looking to this meeting and hoping that with the, with the easing of the policies, particularly the forex policy, they might be able to get the much needed dollar from the market. We've seen at the official window 197, at the parallel market 320, 350. And so it's really very wide. A lot of manufacturers have complained that they've not been able to source dollars at the official rate or at relatively easy rate, and so it's made it a little difficult for them to import stuff. Oil and gas sector as well has been particularly under pressure. So we're going to see in the days coming more tightening, if you'd like to call it that, on the part of businesses, even though the central bank governor says there'll be an introduction of more flexible exchange rate policy. What that means at this time, nobody really knows. But we know for a certainty that, he talked about the fact that, yes, the 2016 budget had been, passed, but the delay had caused more damage than they thought. So since their last meeting, since the meeting in July last year, they had tried to come up with accommodative policies, but everybody always looked at it that it was too tightening because we didn't have so much coming from the fiscal part. But now that we have the budget in place and we're waiting to see how much of this will be implemented, they have gone right ahead and taken the decisions that they feel is in the best interest of the economy.
So this is good news for businesses?
Not really. Not really, because it seems as it's now there will be more tightening for them, because they have to come up with more innovative and creative ideas of how to run their business. The central bank has said we'll come up with more flexible exchange policies for you. And then the banks will also, as much as possible, retain a small window for critical transactions. Already on Twitter, the commentaries have been, it's been fire because they feel that it's been ambiguous. But, you know, the president...
It just sounds ambiguous if it's
Yes,
say flexible, because people really need to know what that means.
The president, during his budget speech, had actually alluded to the fact that the central bank would come up with a flexible policy to allow, you know, for easy transactions. But just yet, we don't know what that policy is. But in line with what we see in recent developments, both domestically and globally, we're not earning so much from oil because oil prices have, continue to fluctuate at the global markets, 48 today, 50 tomorrow. So there's really a lot of uncertainty. But the Central Bank of Nigeria still says, I'm not speaking for them, I'm not holding brief for them, but that's what, according to Mr. Emefiele, said this afternoon. We will make sure that the economy continues to run smoothly, even though it seems as if we're nearing a near recession. But as much as possible, they will continue to come up with policies that will reflect the economy.
Harriet, well, it still sounds ambiguous anyway to the common man on the streets, but to those who own businesses, it still sounds like nothing really has changed.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot.
We hate to be the bearers of bad news, but that's what it is.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming here. We know you'll keep an eye on the story in the coming weeks. Now, when we come back after the break on Network Africa, Egypt's aviation official confirms that officials did not observe the Egypt Air flight swerve and change direction before it disappeared. That's up ahead. Please stay with us.